simulated. No. It needs to equal extra delta t. Like, we simulated the entire thing. So, rah. It's not right. It's extra delta t. Where are we sitting? DT's simulated. Extra delta t. Anywhere else? Nowhere else? I don't see it. DT sim. So I think we're good. If we're on the ground, we hit the floor, we're good. Alright, fine. Good. Come on, fat sack. You know you want to move properly. You got the music in your soul, and you want to just fly around the room. It's not true, though. He just rolls around. He's just too lazy. He's like trying to get up a hill. He just gives up and rolls back down. That's fat sack in a nutshell. So, now that we've fixed the delta t's, this is kind of what his motion looks like. We jump into something, that's fine. I'm holding the left key and I jump into something, I kind of treble down it. I'm holding the right key there, and I treble along it. And I don't like the traveling down, it's kind of weird. It looks like I treble down faster on some things that I shouldn't. Like that's holding the right key, and then all of a sudden, like, we're getting stuck on these edges. Like I can't move off of that thing. So what do we want to fix first? Well, let's fix jumping into that flat surface, moving along that. So let's give ourselves a little flat surface to jump against. Just throw it right there. Save that. And let's see what actually happens in this motion. So we walk over, we jump into it while holding, well, that's the wrong. Alright. We jump into it while holding left, and what happens? our collision normal is 0. So let's see. Our motion magnitude is... Well, our motion direction is -1 in the y and 0 in the z, so okay. So we're trying to travel left. And we didn't encounter anything, so we are going to travel nowhere. We're not going to move. Why the hell not? Is it because our motion direction is -1 and our new velocity, our velocity in the y is 0? What's our new velocity even set to? Just doesn't seem right. Oh, we're adding like a... I believe this should be the absolute value of our direction here. How come I can't click anything? Okay, there it goes. Because we're going to have different behaviors if we were moving to the left or to the right with this stuff. And we should probably switch these things up so they're identical in how they function. Very good. Well, I'd like to get this motion correct, and then I'll probably end the stream when we get this right. And we're almost there. We're getting there. We fixed the times. Well, now we just need to get the motion direction proper for these things. That's what it's looking like. Right, so the new motion direction Y is, yeah, we're gonna be setting this in there. So So y is -1. So the new velocity y, what? Wish this wasn't all garbage. So I need to print it out. Like this just, movement dir. What's that? And we just want new velocities. Then we want the float y component. Y component mag is going to be let's just set it to this value. Componentize this thing. Yeah, look at that. New motion magnitude equals. Yeah, we were screwing it up right there. So that makes sense to me. Movement magnitude comps are %f cross %f. Alright, so the movement velocity is 0, -50, 165. The movement magnitude components are -3. The movement magnitude is -3. The movement direction is -3. We're finished moving. So, why didn't we move? Our direction was -3. We were supposed to move. We are finished moving. So new motion magnitude is less than tiny float. New motion magnitude was less than that? The new motion magnitude is -2.74. Alright, so the question is, why is the magnitude less than 0? So the magnitude is less than 0 because we're actually traveling in a negative direction. So this is the question. For the y motion, we want to keep the y component magnitude in a certain direction, but basically what we want to know is if one of these are, if the component, like the magnitude obviously should never be negative. Like that's just us being stupid. The issue is that we should not be going negative, and the only time we should be reversing, we'll need to flip our motion direction vector, because we've already rotated this in the direction of the y velocity, so that's fine. Our y velocity is going to be fine, so basically y component's always going to be this value, because that's going to be the direction of our motion in the y, so that's always positive. The difference here is that if we have a negative z component, then we need to negate no. If we have a negative new motion magnitude after this, we need to negate the vector. So if new motion magnitude is less than 0, then new motion direction times equals -1, and new motion magnitude equals F abs of new motion magnitude. So basically in that thing, we have too high of a z velocity going up that we are not able to actually move to the left and down a slope unless we had enough velocity over to the left, in which case we would actually travel down the slope, but we would travel slower because our z is still trying to push us higher on the wall. So we won't be able to travel to the left pretty much at all. So what we should see with this, because there's no friction on the ceiling, I mean, we're not slowing down our z even if our head's hitting the wall, we should we're always traveling to the right. Are we negating it? Is that what's going on? Are we always negating this? That's our z component. New motion magnitude is -3, and the y component for the magnitude is -3. How did we get a -3? We got a -3 because our velocity is negative, so we want to take the absolute value of the velocity. Is that true? The y component magnitude is going to be always positive. No, it's not quite. It's not quite right. The y component magnitude should never be less than 0. So what we need to do is figure out if it's the direction of motion is already in this thing. So why are we multiplying by this? We're multiplying by this to change what we're doing. Our velocity.z should... Well, we might want to get rid of some of these things for negatives and all that. I believe it should be the absolute value of the velocity y. And that'll fix us moving back and forth real quick. So that looks like it's working properly for that. So we hit the wall. What if we hit the wall still traveling? Yeah, we kind of just plunk right off of it. Yeah, that's kind of what we want. So you don't get totally stuck on crap. You're just like, eh. You can get a little bit of ups, even if you're not perfect. Welcome back. So let's see about this. So we jumped, and we had a lot of Y, we had a lot of Z axis potential. Yeah, and we're kind of. Well, we are making progress. Basically, right now we're testing out. Like, I'm holding the left key and I hit jump, and he travels up the wall pretty well. You kind of slip along the wall. But it seems like what I should be doing. Like, he slips up a little bit too much, I think, because I'm holding left. And like, if I'm just jumping straight up. Well, it doesn't do anything. What? This was working earlier. Why is it not working now? Probably because some other thing. But I don't know if I want it to slip up the wall so easily. Well, it won't when it's done. But basically platforming controls are platforming controls. So if we can get as good of platforming fine-tuned control as Super Meat Boy, I would be very happy. So let's fix that. Movement velocity is in the Z direction. Movement magnitude comps are movement direction is negative Y, positive Z, so we're actually moving in the opposite direction that we want to move. So we can fix this real quick. So new velocity is negative it's positive in the Z-axis. New motion direction is negative in the Z-axis. So it wants us to move negative. Why does it want to move negative? Because we took the surface normal and we rotated it and blah. The blueprint system is definitely capable of making an entire game. They've proven that by making, some small stuff, but the question is always not if something is capable of doing something. It's more of if it's worth using or thinking you can build an entire thing. It's the question would be if it's worth spending the time thinking blueprints can build an entire game. And I'd say if you're relying on blueprints for absolutely everything, it's going to be pretty difficult. Because you're going to have common functionality, and usually you throw it off into C++ land or something like that. And if you have to use blueprints for everything, then if you run into some edge case where blueprints just don't do something quite nicely for you, Might get a little sticky. Might get a little difficult to deal with. So the y component magnitude is going to be 0. The problem is we've rotated our... We've got our surface normal. And our movement direction normal is actually incorrect. So our motion should be like we're rotating this. Like it is, if the normal is y, so it's over to the right and down, and y velocity is -0. So we're just returning, we're not rotating the vector, is what's going on. So if the velocity is actually 0, which way should we rotate this thing? If we rotated it left, we're actually going to rotate it left, I think. And it's going to be based on the z velocity. So since we're in the positive z, we're going to rotate that. So that's what we want to do, is do if new velocity dot y is equal to 0, then we're going to do something else. We're going to say new motion direction equals rotate vector to direction, and we're going to rotate it by our z. Is that right? Just chuck the z velocity in there and see what the hell happens. I don't see a problem with that. Let's see if it does what I want it to do. So new motion direction yeah, so if the y velocity there, we'll check the z in there and see how it goes. Yeah, I usually don't like the visual scripting language stuff like blueprints and the rest. Except they do a really good job for things like material editors or shaders. They do a great job of that. But actual like logical code, sometimes it just gets freaking complicated. So now when we jump straight up, it kind of looks like that. So I think this is pretty much what we want. The only things that we might want is just a like, we don't want to pop so much. Like, we want a friction to be applied to our character based on all this. Because, you know, he's just like, he glides just too well up slopes, you know, like he needs to work a little harder. And I think we can do that just by applying a y velocity, a z velocity, just a basic friction tag to the character, and I think we'll be pretty much done for jumping on platforms. And then we'll have to get to wall sliding and all that crap next time. Is what I'm starting to think here. And we should probably also put in a min physics sim time on some of these things. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's not completely zero out. Let's do like a float. Let's see, G, ceiling Z friction, and we're gonna set that to like 1,000 or something like that. And what we're gonna do is, if you're impacting the ceiling, then is there a min sim time? Yeah. Because I was seeing a sim problem there. So we need this ceiling Z friction. And where are we going to apply this? We want to apply this when we're hitting something, and our direction is positive along our, yeah, so it's like internal set position, can we land on this thing? And if it's not landable, then this is when we're actually moving along all this stuff. So if new velocity y is greater than 0, if our inner direction of motion, which is our vector by our velocity, is less than 0, then dt simulated is that we do not move downward if our velocity in c is positive. Well, we are moving downward, aren't we? So it's kind of moot. I think these checks are just, I don't even think they're doing anything. Let me just check that real quick. Getting closer to actual movement. Actual movement. What is going on? The hell was that motion? Yeah, so we... That was all sorts of screwed up. So, we do have a few other problems. It's like we iterated over this stuff that our times were all sorts of weird. Movement velocity was 1,000, and then like the magnitude comps are -2s, and the dt should have been getting smaller, but it wasn't, or something like that. Movement magnitude is like 0.44, and then it bumps right back up to 2.66. It's just like, what in the frick? So dt is not getting changed. dt is supposed to be minus the actual time simulated. What is it, the continue for the loop, which is not setting dt, but dt is supposed to be getting smaller here. I guess we're going to need the dt for this thing. Well, at least it's always good to find stuff that's broken. Like, even when it's like taking 2 million years to like get your stuff actually working right, it still needs to work right, and it's just more important to get the bugs out, because that's why we built this test level, is to catch all this stupid crap that is broken. That way, when we do it, it's not like in-game screwed up stuff, it's screwed up stuff that we knew about. Yeah, so the dt is 0.0 for these things, and our components are still non-zero. I just fucked up the printf, didn't I? That's what's going on. Yeah. Whoops. Anyway, I need a quick bio break, so I'll be right back. Is it working now? Ah, it's working now. So if you're wondering what happened, I've got this little thing, and I had it clicked off. I wonder how long I had clicked that off. Was it just since I got back? Or was it for the last 4 hours? Yes, I just got back. I figured I'd screwed around with that thing. That's pretty funny. Anyway, basically what we were just going over was just a few things, like basically setting the DT, like if there's a minimum amount of time. Kind of the issue I'm getting right now is when I get this guy over here, there's a little edge up on the ceiling there where it's a flat ceiling intersecting with a thing down. And what's happening is when I went over on it like this, it gets stuck, and then like you'd see him fly way down way too quickly. And now it's working, and we're just fixing a few small things with that. That looks like it's working pretty well. Pretty happy with this so far. Yeah. I like to chew on things. I'm still 3 years old actually. It's a problem. All right, so now we just need to apply a little bit of that friction juice to this thing. So what we're gonna do is do that. And you might think like, oh man, like he's too ass pen, like maybe he used to be a smoker or something. No, I'm still 3 years old. Yeah, that's how it is. It was like one of the things is I remember my producer came up to my desk one time and he like picked up this like I had this little chunk of rubber on my desk, and he like picks it up and starts playing with it while like talking to me, and then after like 30 seconds he realizes, he's like, "This is your fucking chew toy, isn't it?" And just like throws it on the desk in disgust and walks away, and I was just laughing my ass off. It's like, yeah, you got me. So if the velocity in the z is greater than 0 and the inner direction of motion z is less than 0, I believe that's what we want. Basically, the inner direction of motion is the new collision normal minus that. We can actually apply... Yeah, these were all garbage. We want to apply friction based on the actual time simulated. Actually, I should do something like this. If actual time simulated is less than min sim time, then actual time simulated is going to be dt. And then all the rest of this code will magically just work. And we're going to do if our new velocity dot z is greater than 0, we want to do our Z friction times G down. And we're gonna multiply that by, yeah, it was really funny. I didn't care. He was embarrassed though. He never did that again. He was extra careful. Oh man, but one of the funniest damn things was like when we're at frickin' Amazon, right? Like we're working on a floor with about 120 people in an office, and one of the problems was everybody just kept getting sick at Amazon. Like it was amazing. I'd never worked in a studio where people just got sick all the time, and one of the things that I noticed was like the server team. We were pretty small for a game, and usually server teams are small because there just aren't many of us in the industry who actually do server stuff. It's kind of nuts. Always in incredibly high demand, and we're usually expensive. And you usually always need more of them than you think you will. But we were kind of off in our own little area, right? Because that's where you keep server engineers, because they don't need to talk to anybody. They just kind of do crap on their own. So we were in our little nice area, me and Steve and this guy Dash, and we're all just sitting there doing our server engineer thing. And everybody else gets sick all the time. And Steve, Dash, and I never got sick, just at all. And we basically tracked it down. So like a couple of the guys in the office never washed their hands after going to the bathroom. And they worked over in the design and gameplay programming area. And everybody in the office who like frequented that area got sick. And it was like, and we actually figured out like basically who the people were too. Like, because you'd be in the restroom as you would, and some dude would like jump out of the stall and just beeline for the exit. And you're just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, wash your goddamn hands. And I caught one of them one time, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, sorry, and all awkward. And then he goes and like washes it. I forgot. Like, how do you forget to wash your damned hands? Like, you'd have to. Like, it's kind of automatic, right? You've been trained since birth to like, at least reasonably short time after birth to wash your freaking hands when you touch your junk or something. It's a common courtesy that you're not just